Arizona basketball gets the commit that it has been working on for years. How does this impact Arizona going forward, and what could it possibly mean in the future as well?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke, Locked On, your team every day. All right, Arizona gets Brayden Burries, and this is a massive, massive commit for the University of Arizona for a variety of different reasons. First of all, he's really, really good. Arizona has prioritized this kid from essentially day one. And Tommy Lloyd has coached him. The coaching staff loves him, and it's easy to see why, because he plays basketball the right way. And not only does he play basketball the right way, he's also able to show to a level of maturity that sometimes you just don't get from a high school kid as far as being able to score at all three levels. He is like I said, he is a tremendous scorer, and he's going to be a big time impact player for the University of Arizona. Again, I don't think I'm really breaking any news here. So the first thing we got to talk about, though, is how did this all happen? Well, first of all, here's what happens. Tommy Lloyd prioritizes basically a few kids each class, and he then assigns his assistants. These are the ones that we want. Now, it doesn't really make things a lot easier when you're essentially telling coaches that, hey, guess what? You need to be able to get a certain amount of players, and we're not going to offer that many guys. So it doesn't give you a ton of margin for error, but they played the long game here. And not only did they play the long game, they also played the game, too, where I think you could understand that Arizona was they were going to wait as long as possible. They were not going to get bullied by NIL. And that was a big part in all of this as well. That Arizona went against basically everybody and said, we're going to be able to compete for Koa Peat. We're going to be able to compete for Braden Burries. And they did exactly that. So again, massive, massive shout out to the coaching staff for making that happen. Now, the one thing about it was with Braden Burries, you need to be able to have a guy who can replace Caleb Love as one of those scorers, as one of those frontline players, and they were able to do just that. Now listen, I'm a bigger fan of Caleb Love than most, but at the same time, I also understand too that he did have his flaws. I don't think that Braden Burries will have necessarily the upside that Caleb Love did. Hence, because again, he was a 5-year starter at a Division I Power 4 level, played in multiple Sweet 16s, a championship game, et cetera, et cetera. But I also think he's probably going to be a little bit more consistent, and I think that's something that Arizona has to look at and be like, okay, that's a good part of everything that's going on here. So there's obviously that. Now, the backcourt then, where do we need to be? Where does this backcourt, what does this backcourt need to look like? And it's Brayden Burries and Jaden Bradley. It's interesting because I don't know that either one is your traditional point guard, but they can both get the job done. And Burries is also a ball handler. Arizona needed somebody that could handle the ball. And last year it basically had Jaden Bradley, and that was about it. You needed a ball handler. You needed a better option there. And I think you get that. And I think you get that in Burries. Now, again, is he a natural point guard? No, but he's also going to be able to get buckets, and he's a good secondary facilitator as well. So that's obviously something that is good from an Arizona Wildcat perspective. This also shows too that you kind of know, this coaching staff kind of knows who they're going to go after, who they're going to prioritize, and how they're going to go about doing it. And they've got a pretty good hit rate. The hit rate, like I said, is that's something that you have to look at and be like, okay, they're hitting on a pretty high number of their guys, because you look at it. You really wanted Kylan Boswell out of California 2 years ago. You got him. You really wanted Carter a year ago out of California. You got him. You really wanted Burries out of California this year, you got him. And you were on these guys for quite a while. And that's, that's something to be shown that in this day in NIL, they're going to be able to get their players. They're going to be able to get the guys that they need in there. And like I said, they're doing exactly that. So that's a fun part to watch in all of this. Now, where does this, what are our statistical expectations for when it comes to Brayden Burries? Because again, they might be a little bit different than I think some folks, than maybe some folks are thinking. Again, this is a little bit of a different situation. But what are those expectations? But first, Supply House, my friends, Supply House. Check out Supply House. All right, here's the deal with Supply House. You got the supplies you need from the site that gives you for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you are in plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Again, it makes your life a little bit easier. That is the part that you like about it. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Now, you need help with an order. Supply House offers expert support. That's the cool thing. You're never going to be on your own here, and that's a great part about this. And you can always talk with a real person, and for free, and for pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trade Master program. Woohoo! Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Again, they make your life easier here. And, if you're looking to, save a little bit of time and get things done right, go to Supply House. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about statistical expectations for Braden Burries. This is going to be an interesting one for me because I think he's probably going to average somewhere around 14, 15 points per game. Because again, he's going to play 30 minutes. And so, we need to talk about that. He's going to be playing 30 minutes per game. That's a big part about all of this. He is and like I said, I think he will play off Jaden Bradley well. Jaden will probably guard the other team's best offensive guard. And, Braden will get a little bit of a reprieve in that front because Braden's going to have to score. Arizona's going to need Braden Burries to score the basketball, but both these guys are going to do really well. I do think that adding one more backup ball handler, I think would be a really, really nice piece to all of this. This is when I look at it, I think that backup, that backup point guard who can play 5 to 8 minutes per game. I would love somebody like an Evan Nelson, South Point kid, obviously, who could come in here and he could, like I said, he could come in here and he could play and he could start, he could be that backup point guard role. That's not I don't think that that's a stretch, but you need somebody that you can trust because, like I said, Conrad Martinez did some good things, but Tommy's talk about Conrad was basically bluster. He didn't really trust Conrad to put him in big spots, nor should he have for prolonged periods of time. So you need a real point guard. I think that getting somebody like Evan Nelson, 6'3", can handle the ball a little bit, shoot some threes. I think that'd be a nice little fit. But your backcourt's pretty good now. Your backcourt is pretty good now because, again, you got to add one more guy. But then you start looking ahead a little bit to the front court. And what could it be like? Who's that go-to guy? Could it be Braden Burries? Is it going to be Carter Bryant? Is Carter Bryant going to be another one where, you just got to get him the ball and then say, all right, guys, get out of the way. It's time to do some business. I don't know. But that's the part that I think is going to be very interesting in all of this is how Arizona does play this, because there's a lot of different scenarios where, I think Arizona can be in a fairly good spot. So Carter Bryant is going to be the next one. We'll see how that plays out. But you also got some options. If you got ADO then on the perimeter, ADO is a big, ADO, okay, like I said, he's not a great player per se, but ADO, again, another one, 10 to 15 minutes per game, depending on the opponent. Yes, please sign me up for 2. This is turning out to be a roster that looks like it could be pretty loaded. And like I said, I expect it to be Tommy Lloyd's best team. Now, this is a top 5 class. I mean, when you've got Dwayne Aristod, when you've got Brayden Burries, when you've got Koa Peat, and you got Bryce James, that is a top 5 class in the country. And who knows, maybe you add another player. But again, it also kind of goes to show you too that the Tommy Lloyd is in a pretty good spot here when it comes to where everything is. Now, is the lineup set though? I think that's a question that a lot of people still have, and I don't know that the answer isn't actually that obvious. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right. As far as the lineup being set, I think that it could be, honestly. I mean, you're looking at it right now, and you've got your backcourt set, obviously. Assuming guys come back up front, Koa Peat's going to play 30 minutes per game. Not only is he going to play 30 minutes per game, you're also going to have Krivas, you're going to have Awaka. They're going to be playing a ton as well. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be interesting to see how this does play out. Carter is obviously the key to all of this. If Carter comes back, then I think that you're basically just kind of tinkering around the edges at that point. This is a team where you could have a number of different players that could be auxiliary players, but your template would pretty much be there. Now, if Carter leaves, then you've obviously got to add another player there, another starting caliber player. But if Carter comes back, this is also a numbers and money game. You're probably going to be you're only probably looking for role players or roster addition filler types. And I think that's like I said, that's an interesting part to all of this. Who can those guys be then? And, so again, if you're looking for somebody like a Nas Cunningham or something, you're probably not going to get Nas Cunningham because, again, he's a high money guy. And Arizona doesn't have, $750,000 to throw at somebody who could be who could possibly be a 7th or an 8th guy. I mean, that's just not the way it is. So you need to, like I said, players like Evan, I think, are more of what you need to be looking for if you're an Arizona fan. And I think that, but that's also, you're dealing from a position of strength. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, I want another center. Well, if you have Mo Krivas and you have Tobe Awaka, that's going to be your center combination, and that's more than okay. Because you look at the possible lineup around it, and that's going to be awesome. Plus, like I said, I think at the end of the day, we need to trust where Tommy Lloyd is going here with big men. He is like I said, he's pretty darn good when it comes to big men. And he's shown a lot of people that, like Umar Ballo, I didn't see him becoming that. You probably didn't either. Same with Henry Vasar. So again, he's shown that he knows what he's doing with big men. And so we will see. I do also think too, that this is a team that can compete for a national championship. I think it's his deepest team. Now, is it perfect across the board? No. You probably wish you had another 3-and-D type guy, but guess what? This college basketball, this is a spot where you just know that you've got to be able to get the best players possible. And Arizona's done a really good job of that. They've also shown too that in this NIL era that they are not going to be pushed around. They're going to get who they want to get, and they showed exactly that. And I think when it comes to basketball, you also know that this is a squad where. How do I put this? Where if I'm rolling out there a lineup of Jaden Bradley, Braden Burries, possibly Carter Bryant, Koa Peat, and Mo Krivas / Tobe Awaka, game on. I'll take my chances against about anybody. But also need to give a massive shout out to Jack Murphy in all of this. Murph is the one that works behind the scene. Murph works really, really hard at what he does. And Arizona is super, super lucky to have him because he is, like I said, you need grinders, and he is one that's shown time and time again that he is the epitome of what it means to back the A. Okay, well, wanted to have the emergency podcast today, break down everything Braden Burries related, because this is obviously a massive commit for the University of Arizona. It's an exciting time, and like I said, Arizona is in really good shape moving forward. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. And again, thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day.